Before we begin the formal aspects of today's proceedings, please allow me to go through some helpful tips for a successful session. Please note that your mics will be muted throughout the session. Your questions can be sent via the chat option on the Teams platform. These questions will be collated by our team and addressed in our question and answer segment at the end of the session. Please keep your contributions helpful and be considerate to our presenters and other participants. At the end of today's session, you will be invited to provide your feedback, so feel free to help us improve future sessions to better match your needs by letting us know what worked well and what did not. This session is being recorded and it will be shared via email and uploaded to our website. So without further delay, we now welcome our first presenter, Mr. Devraj Ramdeen, who will guide us through key aspects of sections of the Act. Mr. Ramdeen.
Hi, good morning everyone, and thank you, Tamara. I will be taking you guys through the first half of our presentation that we have today. Let's take a look at what we have planned. In today's session, we will be touching on key aspects of the Public Procurement and Disposal of Public Property Act, as well as the regulations. What is UNSPSC codes? Then we'll go into the actual Procurement Depository for a walkthrough of the public body's profile. This will include their profile details and how to submit requests for changes to your profile information, pre-qualification of suppliers, ineligible suppliers, tender and contract management, login of disposals information, how to access reports, how new features will be released and roll out, and lastly, how you can access user support. Starting off with the Act. We have identified 5 sections of the Act that we would like to highlight today. Sections 13, 24, 26, 29, and 58. Section 13 details the functions of the office. Section 24 details the reports that the office must produce annually to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, the President of the Senate, and the Minister of Finance as corporation sole. So let's take a look at Section 26. Section 26. The office shall establish a database known as the Procurement Depository, which suppliers or contractors can submit their information. Suppliers or contractors shall be responsible for the accuracy of their information submitted to the Procurement Depository. In conducting its due diligence, a procuring entity may require a supplier or contractor to confirm the accuracy of the information submitted to the depository. Okay. Section 29. Section 29 goes into the due diligence. A procuring entity shall ensure that suppliers and contractors have the legal capacity to enter into the procurement contract. They are not insolvent, in receivership, bankrupt, or being wound up. Their affairs are not being administered by a court or judicial officer. Their business activities have not been suspended, and they are not the subject of any legal proceedings for any of the foregoing. Section C. Section C was amended in 2020 to say, have not been convicted within the past 10 years of corruption or fraud-related offences locally or internationally as individuals or as directors or officers of a company. They have fulfilled their obligations to pay all required taxes and contributions in Trinidad and Tobago. It goes on to say, they have the necessary professional and technical qualifications and competence financial resources, equipment, and other physical facilities, managerial capability, reliability, experience, and personnel to perform the procurement contract and meet the relevant industry standards. Any requirement established pursuant to this section shall be set out in the pre-qualification or pre-selection documents, if any, and in the solicitation documents, and shall apply equally to all suppliers or contractors. And the last section I'd like to touch on from the Act today is Section 58. The ineligibility list. The ineligibility list of suppliers are suppliers or contractors who shall not participate in procurement proceedings. A supplier or contractor who is added to the list, this fact shall be published and communicated to all public bodies. The office may add a supplier or contractor to the ineligibility list if they have consistently failed to provide satisfactory performance, is found to be indulging in corrupt or fraudulent practices, or is convicted of an offense under this Act. Okay, so as we move on, I'd just like to highlight the definitions of pre-qualification and pre-selection as defined in Section 4 of the Act. Pre-qualification is the procedure to identify, prior to solicitation, suppliers or contractors who are qualified. Pre-selection is the procedure to identify, prior to solicitation, a limited number of suppliers or contractors who best meet the qualification criteria for the procurement concerned. Now let's take a look at the regulations as it relates to pre-qualification and pre-selection. A supplier or contractor shall register on the Procurement Depository and upload all required information and supporting documentation for pre-qualification. The supplier or contractor shall ensure that the information submitted is complete and accurate. Registration and pre-qualification shall be on an ongoing basis. A supplier or contractor may be pre-qualified in two ways. One, they are registered on the Procurement Depository and submitted a request for pre-qualification. Two, during an active tender, they can be invited to be pre-qualified through the depository. A procuring entity shall ensure that a supplier or contractor that is pre-qualified meets the requirements set out in Section 29(1) of the Act. So again, that speaks to the due diligence that shall be done. And lastly, a procuring entity shall only invite suppliers or contractors who are pre-qualified on the Procurement Depository to participate in procurement proceedings. The regulations as it relates to retention and disposal. A key point here, the office is notified of all disposals within 6 weeks of its completion, which includes the details of the disposal item and any supporting documents requested by the office. So now I'd like to go into a high-level overview of the system. So the Procurement Depository is separated into 4 different sections: supplier, public body, system configuration, and reporting. Let's take a look at the supplier side. A supplier can register on the Procurement Depository. Once registered, they can log in and complete their supplier record, which includes their company information, financial and legal information, safety equipment and technical competence, and any supporting documents. So just to highlight, the areas in green captures the information outlined in section 29.1 as we briefly highlighted a few moments ago. Once a supplier completed their record, they can then publish that record for public bodies to view. Once published, the supplier can then request pre-qualification for their specified lines of business. Lastly, a supplier can be added to the ineligibility listing, and this listing is managed by the office. Let's take a look at the public body. The public body can pre-qualify suppliers, can perform tender management. So tender management goes into creation of the tender record, tender lots, and tender lots can have your bid submission information. You can manage the status of the tender lot and award that tender lot. Once awarded, you can perform contract management. You'll also be able to log your disposals information, which includes creation of a disposal record. That record would have your addresses information of your disposal item and who are the beneficiary of that disposal item. You can then submit change requests if you have any changes to your public body's profile. And lastly, you have access to reports. Now, before we go into the actual procurement repository, let's take a look at the UNSPS codes. Now, what is UNSPS? Now, UNSPS stands for United Nations Standard Products and Services Code. It was jointly developed by the United Nations Development Programme and Dun & Bradstreet Corporation in 1998. It is an open, global, multi-sector standard for efficient and accurate classification of products and services. It aids in identifying the particular goods, works, or services that is being requested by the procuring entity and the suppliers or contractors. Okay. It is considered an efficient, accurate, and flexible classification system used for achieving organization-wide visibility of spend analysis, enabling procurement to deliver cost-effectiveness demands, allowing full exploitation of electronic commerce capabilities. Okay, so the UNSPSC code is used by public bodies and suppliers and contractors to identify the goods, works, or services. So let's take a look at how the UNSPSC is structured. So as you can see here, it is hierarchical in structure with 4 levels. At the top level, we have the segment. Then it goes into the family, then class, and at the last level, we have the commodity. So at each of these levels, a 2-digit code is given to identify the UNSPSC code. So once selected 4 levels, you will have a complete code of 8 digits. Let's look at an example for the UNSPSC code. In this example, we'll be trying to identify desktop computers. So using the UNSPSC code, we will first select the segment, and the segment that relates to desktop computers is information technology, broadcasting, and telecommunications. So as you can see here, the 2-digit code being built at this level is 43. As we step into the family class, within the family level, which is computer, equipment, and accessories, we can see another 2 digits being built at this level, 21. Once selected, we'll then be taken to the class. So the class is computers, and the code being built here is 15. As we're taken to the final level, the commodity, which is the item we are actually looking for, desktop computers, you can see the code being built here is 07. So the unique code, unique UNSPSC code for desktop computers is 43211507. Okay, so now I'd like to transition into the actual procurement depository for a hands-on walkthrough. Now you may be wondering, well, how do I get onto the depository? Well, the depository is simply a website that you go to. So I just transition to my browser. Now, if you do not know the URL for the depository, you can go to our office website, which is oprtt.org. Once you come onto our website, using the menu, we will hover over portals, and we will see there's an option here, Procurement Depository. So we select that. This takes you to our Procurement Depository page of our website. So this page will have all the resources that you require for the Procurement Depository. So just to give you a quick overview of what this page consists of, you have public body resources, which include your user guide for credentials reset and add-in lines of business. There's also a letter template here. This letter template is used for creating change requests in the system. There are supplier resources, so this relates to the supplier side. Policies implemented in the system, a useful link, and we have support options. Okay, so going to the repository, how do we do that? So once you get onto this page, on the portals Procurement Depository, you will see a button here, Go to Depository. So you simply click on that button. All right, so it takes us to the Procurement Depository landing page. So to the left-hand side, you see the login form, if you have your username, password. And to the right-hand side, this is where suppliers will be registering to the Procurement Depository. Now, those of you who are the named procurement officer or accounting officer should have received your credentials from us to log into the system. If you did not receive any credentials and you are the named procurement officer or accounting officer, you can contact us via any of our support options and let us know. So I'm just going to log into the system as a demo user. Enter my username, my password. Enter the captcha. Click sign in. Once I click sign in, I'm then taken to my security questions. So your security questions is also included in your email. One other thing to note, if it's your first time logging into the repository, once you click submit on your security question, you will be prompted to review the system policies and accept it before you continue. So once I entered my security questions and I am logged into the system, now I can see my home page for my public body. So again, it's a demo account, public body demo. To the left-hand side is a quick navigation bar. To the top, you'll see the user you are currently logged in with. And to the right-hand side is just a widget that displays your current public body that you're logged in to. Just over that, you'll see an icon here. So this icon is the settings icon. Clicking here gives you access to manage my profile, where you can reset your security questions, reset your password, contact us, view the system policies, or log out. So bringing your attention to the center. The center, you'll see a lot of different sections. So it's grouped into 4 sections: procurement, suppliers, company information, and company documents. So we'll be stepping through each item in these sections today. So I'd like to start with documents. So the Procurement Depository allows documents to be uploaded into the system. But in order to use the documents in the system, you must first assign your documents. So I'll take you through this process. So when you click on documents, you can see there are 3 tabs here: upload files, assigned documents, and uploaded documents. So uploaded documents will have all documents that you have uploaded into your profile. Assigned documents are all documents that you have assigned. And upload files is where you will upload new files. So I'm just going to upload a new file. We click on add files. In this demo, I will select a change request. So this is the template taken from the website. I would have just completed that change request. I select that file. And at this point, I can either cancel my upload if I selected the wrong file. If I wish to proceed, I will click on start. You can either click on start here or start upload if you uploaded multiple files. So as I click start, I'm then given the option to delete the file. So I made a mistake and uploaded the wrong file. I can proceed to delete if I so wish. So once you have your file uploaded, the next step would be to go to assigned documents. Just take note of the name of this file is change requests NPO SAC fail. So I click on assigned documents. I see my listing of assigned documents, but I don't see the document that I just uploaded, right? So what do we do next? We click on assign document. So this button is the top left. Click there. You will then be taken to a page where you select your uploaded document. Just click this button. I select my document I just uploaded, which is change request NPO ZAC fair. I select that document. I click save. I can see my document is selected here. I must set a document type for this document. So once you click on this listing, you will see a long listing of document types. But you will also notice that some is prefixed with A and it goes on into B. Documents prefixed with A relates to the supplier side of the procurement depository. So as public bodies, you'll be looking at documents prefixed with B. So these are document types that you can select from. So being a change request I uploaded, I will select the type change request. Okay. Once selected, you can set an effective date for this document. So I'm just going to select today's date. And if your document has an expiry date, you can also select that. So I'm just going to save this now. Once saved, again, I'm in the Assign Documents tab. I scroll down. Now I see that I have change request NPO ZAC fair showing up in this listing. So my document is now assigned. Now just to take a look, uploaded documents, you will see a listing of my document here. All right, so again, let's go into the steps. You will first add your file, upload it, then you go into assign documents, you assign a document, and then it's ready for use in the system. Let's go back to our home page. So that takes care of the company documents section. Let's take a look at the company information section. So under this section, we have details, addresses, users, and change requests. let's take a look at details. So details basically have your information of your public body. So this includes the public body's name, the category type, and who they report to. Addresses. Addresses have the address of the public body. So simply streets 1, 2, 3, your city, municipality, and telephone contact. Let's go back. Users. If I click on users, I can see all the users who are created in my public body who has access to log in to this public body. So here we can see we have two users, Emil Ali and Jane Joseph. So at the very least, every public body should have two users, the name procurement officer and the accounting officer. Okay, let's go back. Now, one key point to note, your details, addresses, and users are all managed by the OPR, right? So if you require any changes to any of these sections, how do you go about doing that? Well, this is where change request comes in. If you require any changes to your details, your address information, or users of your profile, you will then submit a change request. So let's go into change request. As you go into change request, you can see we are displayed with a listing of our change requests, and we have filters here as well. So we can filter by pending, applied, and rejected. Pending change requests are change requests that you created that comes into the office for action. Applied will be change requests that was actioned by the office and accepted and applied to your public body's profile. Rejected are change requests that comes into the office but was not applied and rejected. Once rejected, you will be given a reason why it was rejected. Right? Let's take a look at creating a change request. Just click on create. Once you click on create, we see we have some fields here that must be filled out. Request effective date. So your request effective date is the date you would like this change to your profile to be actioned. So I'm just going to select April 4th, sorry. I'm just going to select April 4th. And this change, there's a brief description of the change to your profile. I'm going to say new NPO. So, SAC fair. And the last thing that's required is a verification letter. Now, verification letters are required for changes in name procurement officers and accounting officers. If there are changes to your details or addresses, verification letters are not needed. So because I am making a change to the name procurement officer, I must upload a verification letter. So remember the letter we have just uploaded from the document section. I'm going to select that document. Here, I have the document selected. Once I'm okay with all my details, I can then click save. So once I click save, what happens? Well, the office is notified that a new change request was created, and we will then come into your profile and review the change request. So we come into your profile, look at what was created. Okay, I'm looking on the pending tab. I see you submitted a new change request for NPO, Mr. Zach Fair. I know a change in NPO requires a verification letter, so I will download your letter that was uploaded. So here you can see the download icon. This icon is used throughout the system for document attachments. So I'm just going to click this, and it automatically downloads your document. Now let's going to open this document. So this is an example of a completed change request letter. So it would have your public bodies letterhead, the date, and the details of the change. And each letter must be signed by the accounting officer. So in this instance, it is not signed. So what the office can do, we can reject this change, and then we can say in rejection reason, letter must be signed by the accounting officer. Okay. So this takes care of your change requests. So this is how you will be making changes to your company information section of your profile. All right, so I step into the next section, suppliers. So under suppliers, we have lines of business, ranked suppliers by lines of business, and awaiting qualification. In this section is where you will be specifying your lines of business that you are interested in. And also, this is where you will be pre-qualifying suppliers or viewing the listing of suppliers that are already pre-qualified by line of business. So let's look at example of lines of business. As you click there, we see a listing of all the lines of business that we have added to this public bodies profile. Okay. So I'm just going to add a new line of business to see how that is done. So I click on create. Okay, so again, remember the UNSPS coding, there are 4 levels. Once I click on create, I'm taken to the first level, which is your segment. But let's say I'm looking for stationery. How do I find that? It's not easily apparent to me that stationery is an item to select. So what do I do? Well, going back to our website, oprtt.org, on our website, to the Procurement Depository page on the portals, scroll down to the useful links. Here, if you click on this, the United Nations Standard Products and Services Code, you'll then be taken to the actual UNSPSC website. So this website has an excellent resource where you can search the listing of UNSPS codes. So to the left-hand side here, you see a widget where you can search the code by the code number if you know it, or the code name. So we're looking for stationery. So you can simply type in stationery here, click enter. And we're given a listing of UNSPSC codes that has the word stationery in it. So here I can see I found my UNSPSC code that I'm looking for. So that code 14111509. Okay, so I found my item. What do I do next? Well, using that code, you can traverse the hierarchy in the depository, right? So looking back at that code, it started with 14, which is the segment. So I'm looking at 14, I select that. What's the next 2 digits? It's 11. So I go back to my depository. I select 11, paper products. I check back the code again. It's 15. I look what is 15, printing and writing paper. Once selected, I'm then taken to the commodity level. So here you can see the hierarchy being built, segment, family, class, and I'm at the commodity level. So here you would actually be selecting your line of business. So again, the code was 09 for stationery. At this level, you can select multiple items if you so wish, just by selecting the checkbox for multiple, or as we're looking for one item, you can just highlight one. So I highlighted stationery. I'm just going to proceed. You proceed by clicking next, top right here. Once I click next, I have some more information that I need to enter in creating this new line of business. So here you see pre-qualification value category. So what is this? I select that drop down. I will see a listing of levels. Levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Level 1 starts with value category of $0 to $100,000. And level 6 goes from $100 million and above. So this is in TTD. So all values, all monetary values used in the system is Trinidad and Tobago dollars. So what is this for? So once you select your line of business, you must specify the value category that you're interested in for that line of business. So I'm interested in, let's say, level 2, 100,000 to $2 million. So I'm going to select that value category, and effective date, I can say today, and then I can proceed to save. So here you will see a listing of your lines of business that you have selected. So I'm going to click save. Once I save that, I'm then taken back to my listing of lines of business. If I scroll through my listing, I will see my new line of business that was added, stationery. Okay. So that's how you add a line of business that you are interested in to your profile. So what's next? I want to see the suppliers who are pre-qualified for that line of business. So what you will do, you click on this option, ranked suppliers by line of business. Once I click there, I must first select my line of business, stationery. Once selected, I will see a listing of suppliers who also have that line of business added to their profile, so they can provide stationery. Okay. In this listing, we have two suppliers, DR Consultancy and 123 Financial Services. If we notice under the status column, one is accepted and one says new. What does this mean? So DR Consultancy is accepted, which means that they are pre-qualified to provide stationery. If the status is new, this means that 123 Financial Services is not pre-qualified. However, they are currently requesting pre-qualification. Okay. So how do we accept pre-qualification requests? So let's go back. So under the supplier section, we see awaiting qualification. So you click on awaiting qualification, select your line of business, and here you will see a listing of suppliers who are requesting pre-qualification for that line of business. Here you can see 123 Financial Services requesting pre-qualification in stationery for value category level 2. If I click view, I'm then taken to a summary page of the pre-qualification request. So on this page, you can see the total contracts amount they have for this particular line of business. So they have up to $2,500,000. The largest contract in this line of business is $75,000, and they have 5 years of experience. Scrolling down, suppliers or contractors must declare that they deny prior violations and accepts responsibility for the information provided. So looking to the right, I'm seeing I have some options here. Accept, reject, view published profile, or back. So what is accept or reject? Accept or reject is accepting the pre-qualification request or rejecting the pre-qualification request. But before you do that, you must first perform your due diligence. How do I go about doing that? You do that by clicking View Publish Profile. Once you click on that button, you'll be taken to the supplier's profile. So this is the supplier's profile. The company information, legal and financial and legal information, safety, equipment, and technical competences, and each section have multiple options that you can view. So let's take a look at the company information. So this is 123 Financial Services. I'm going to click on the details, and it takes me to the details of their company. So here you can see what kind of supplier type they are, the number of employees, their legal name, and so on. If I scroll down, I can see company documents. So these are the documents that they have uploaded to their profile. So again, you can see the download button here. You can click on the corresponding document. Once you click on it, it downloads the document to your desktop or computer, and you can view that document. One thing to note, the expiry date column. So documents that has an expiry date, the supplier is required to enter that into the system. So this gives you an idea of when that document is going to be expired. So you must review the expiry date along with the actual document to ensure that is correct. Okay, if I click cancel, I go back. So under this company information, they have their lines of business, directors, addresses, geographical location, principals, shareholders or owners, and authorized persons. So I could click on any section I like and view the information that was entered. So these are the authorized persons to conduct business under their company's behalf. As I move on to the financial and legal information, again, I can click on the financials. And here I can see that they have uploaded their financials for 2019 and 2020. So they uploaded their financial statements and banker's letter. You can see an overview of their annual gross sales. And if I wish to review their statements, I can download that here by clicking. Okay. Going back. So you can do that for any section here. You can even look at their licenses. So you can see they have a license in surveying, have the license number, and they uploaded a document for that. Going back. The last section, safety, equipment, and technical competence. Let's take a look at the industry standards. So under industry standards, we can see that they have two certifications here, ISO 9001, and they have uploaded that document. So you can verify that document to ensure that they are certified. So same thing for safety work. As we go back, let's check out the technical competences. So here you will see a listing of resources that is key to this supplier's lines of businesses. We can see they have 4 resources uploaded along with resumes. And here you can see a qualifications tab. We can expand. If you expand that, you can see what qualifications each resource has. Okay, you can see Yuri has a master's degree and a CCA. All right, as you go back. So this is a process that you will be going through in performing your due diligence and ensuring that, that this supplier can meet the minimum requirements set out in section 29(1) to be pre-qualified. So as I close that tab, I go back to the depository, to the pre-qualification request. I can then either accept or reject this request because I've already reviewed the published profile. So it did not meet the minimum requirements. So I click on reject. If I click on reject, I can then select a reason for rejection, and then I can add some advisory notes. Once you submit this rejection, this supplier, 123 Financial Services, will be notified of this rejection as well as the advisory notes, which can help them become pre-qualified in the next request for pre-qualification. As we go back. So in this instance, let's say, yes, they meet the minimum requirements and I can accept. So I click on accept. As I click on accept, I can choose to enter optionally some advisory notes or just proceed to save. Once I save, you can see that pre-qualification request was accepted, and this supplier now will be notified that they are pre-qualified for this line of business, which is stationery. Okay, as you go back, if I go back to rank suppliers by line of business, I go back to stationery. If you would remember, we know DR Consultancy was pre-qualified before, and we just pre-qualified 123 Financial Services. So you can see both of their statuses are now accepted. All right, so this is the process you'll be going through in pre-qualifying suppliers. You must first have the matching line of business with the supplier, and then you'll be reviewing the supplier's request for pre-qualification. Once you have reviewed, you can then either accept or reject that pre-qualification request. So once a supplier is accepted or pre-qualified in the depository, they are considered pre-qualified by all public bodies in the depository. Okay, so this is a one-time process by each public body. So let's review. We have went through company documents, company information, and suppliers. So the last point I would like to touch on is supplier ineligibility. So if a supplier is added to the ineligible list, what happens? Well, all public bodies will be notified of this addition, and any ineligible suppliers in the system will not appear in any listing to be selected or be reviewed. So just to show an example, if I go back to stationery, if the office flags DR Consultancy as ineligible, DR Consultancy will not appear in this listing that we have currently. Okay, so that's how the system handles ineligible suppliers. It does not allow you to select or even view that supplier's profile. So this brings me to the end of our first half of our presentation today. So I'd just like to remind you guys, once you have completed with using the depository, you log out. That's going to click log out. And thank you for your attention thus far. I'd like to hand you over to Tamara.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ramdeen. At this time, we will take a 10-minute break. We will place the timer on the screen, so we'll all be working at the same time. See you all back in 10. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now back. So to take us through the next segment would be Mr. Aleem Baksh, who will take you through tender management and contract management. Mr. Baksh.
Thank you, Tamara. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So let's take a look at the tenders process in the depository. So this is a high-level view of the system. So first step, the public body will be required to create a tender record. And the tender record will have at least one tender lot which must be created. And this is then followed whereby the names of all the bidders who would have submitted proposals for that particular tender will need to be captured on the system. Once the determination of the successful bidder is determined, the name of the supplier contractor to whom that bid was awarded to will need to be captured as well. Thereafter, the contract that's associated with that award will need to be created into the system, and updating of the contract will be possible with quarterly updates on the contract performance. So let's take a look at a sample scenario here of a tender situation and how this will then be entered into the system. So I'll just read it out. So this is an invitation to bid with reference 05-2020-2021, which was issued for the provision of janitorial services for a period of 1 year and renewable for 2 additional years. This tender was publicly advertised on a local newspaper, and the ITB's issue date was 4th of January 2021. There was an original bid submission date and time of 2nd of February at 1 p.m. and it was then determined to have an extension for 9th of February 2021 at 1 p.m. There were 3 bid submissions, and after evaluation, it was determined that the tender would have been awarded to ACE General Maintenance, and a contract was then created for 1 year from 9th of March, and then it was extended for 2 additional years from 9th of March 2022. So let's switch across now to the depository to demonstrate how this will actually be entered into the system. So on our screen right now, we are looking at the section headed Procurements, and you'll notice this link here which identifies tenders. And this is the link that you must access to be able to create or view all of the tender information that's in the system for the given public body. So here on this screen, we are able to see previous tenders entered into the system. And so I'm going to create a new tender. So I click on the Create button. And here we are entered with the data entry screen. And notice here, next to some of these fields, you'll be seeing a red asterisk, and these will denote the mandatory fields, which you must enter. So here, the tender name, since it's a janitorial service, I'm going to type in provision of janitorial services, and we'll enter the tender reference number, and that reference number will be your internal reference number, which you keep track of your tenders. So I'm going to put in as 05-2020/2021. We next will select our tender type. And the tender types available from this list of values can vary from competitive negotiation to request for proposal, request for quotation, request for information. But in this case, in this example, we are using an invitation to bid, ITB. And next, we will then specify the procurement description. So here, I'm going to put in provision of janitorial services for an initial period of 1 year, renewable for 2 additional years. Right, so next we will specify the date in which the tender was issued, the tender notice date, and we will select the date from the calendar. So in this case, it was issued on the 4th of January 2021. So I'm going to select my pull-down list, the month, January, the year 2021, and here we have 4th of January select. In terms of the submission deadline, now in this example, this initial submission deadline was 2nd of February 2021. So again, I'm going to select from my calendar. So I'm just going to navigate backwards. So 2nd of February 2021, and I'm going to select the time. So below here, I will 1:00 p.m. and then we click apply. So here you'll notice the date. And next we select the procurement method. And this again can vary from open tendering, selective tendering, single source, sole source. And this was an open tender, so we select open tendering. And under scope of request, so in this particular example, it was advertised in a local newspaper only. So it was a national option. You can also select international or regional. At this point, I will click on the Save button. Right. So the system gave an error just now indicating there was a duplicate record. And the reason for that, I had used the same code in terms of my reference 05/20/2021, which existed previously. So I changed it. So it's one of the checks in the system to avoid any sort of duplicates in the system. So here we are taken to the screen, which provides information we would have just entered in a summarized format. So it provides a description, provision of janitorial service from the 4th of January 2021 being the issue date. Here we see our reference being changed to 06/2020/2021, our tender category being ITB, and our submission deadline of 2nd February 2021. And these are some other details. Now, in terms of this screen, we also have the same navigational features as demonstrated before by Devraj, where we can expand or collapse our sections using the plus or minus buttons. And here you will notice that there's a section called tender lots. And you will recall in my process flow, we needed to create a tender lot. So the system is designed in such a way that it can create multiple lots if there is one. But by default, you will need to create one lot for every tender. So we click on the Create button on the tender lots to create our initial lot. So the lot name, we'll give a description. In this case, we'll janitorial service. We select our reference number. So we'll just call it 1. And next, we must select our line of business, which best matches this procurement activity. So in this case, janitorial service, the item which best matches our service will be building cleaning services. Now, here you're seeing a list of various lines of business, and it can vary from air conditioning, floor cleaning services, notebook computers, etc. And this list is derived from this public body having set up the various lines of businesses that it plans to use. So if there are 10 lines of business set up, only 10 would show here. Okay, so you must set up your lines of businesses as before you actually go on to your tenders as well, just to make sure that you have all of the information available at your hands before you complete your records. So here I'm just going to select the correct thing, building cleaning services. Next, I will select the location where I would like the service to be provided. And in terms of geographic location, this field again is used throughout the system. And for Trinidad, we would identify the various regional corporations for the region. And since we would desire this service in Port of Spain, we will now select the Port of Spain City Corporation as our geographic location. You can, at this point in time, specify your estimated amount or limitations to tender, if any exist. In this case, we do not have that information, so we are going to leave it blank. So I will proceed to click on the Save button. So let's take a look at the screen. Having saved that on our previous screen, we are now presented with a new screen. And on this new screen here, we have a few options available. And I'm just going to go through some of it. So here again, I see my summarized information in terms of the line of business, which is key building cleaning service, location and reference number being my lot 1. If there are any changes to the tender in terms of status, that is normally reflected in the section here. And below here, we have our tender submissions. At this point in time, we don't have any tender submissions to create. So I'll just go back to my previous screen. And just recall, in terms of the screen, let me just switch back to the presentation so you can see the example of what we've completed so far. So here on the screen, we would have created our tender, and here we would have added our bid submission date and time. Now let's demonstrate where we actually enter our extension of our bid. So I switch back now. And as I come back to the screen, which my tender information, you will notice that there is this button called Add Extension. So I'm going to click on it. And here I'm going to add my new submission deadline date. And for this example, we are moving our extension date to 9th of February 2021. 9th of February, and we maintain the same timeline as 1 p.m. So 9th February, apply. And we provide the extension reason. In this case, bidders would require additional time due to additional specifications identified. And then we click on our save. So now we would see our submission deadline date being updated to 9th of February. If I scroll down, I will see under tender extensions, we now have our initial timeline of 2nd of February and the new timeline of 9th of February with the extension reason. Okay. Now, just a note under the tender lots section here, we see the status of the lot in terms of being open for solicitation, the line of business. Again, I'm just going to collapse just to make it for ease of viewing. Okay. So my next step now is that I'm going to go back into the tender lots, click back and view. And now the next step would be we are going to capture the names of the persons who would have submitted proposals for this particular bid. So let's just imagine that the time would have rolled around and it is now the 9th of February 2021. All bids were submitted and the box was opened, and we're now going to enter those names. So I'm going to click on Create under Tender Submissions. And the only information that we would capture at this point in time on the submissions are the names of the bidders. Okay, so here we see a list of published suppliers, and we have 4 names appearing here. Point to note, only 3 bidders would have submitted a proposal. So the system presents a list such that the depository matches all suppliers and contractors, which has a matching line of business. And also the line of business must be published by the supplier. Okay. So here I'm going to select the Vickers Maintenance Company. I then create 2 additionals, Ace General. I click on Create again, and then I select Bob's Maintenance. Now all of these are test supplier contractors which are set up in the system. At this point in time now, you would see the comprehensive list of bidders. And at this juncture, you can either view the account, which will provide you with a view of the various, the profile of the bidders. Or if you made a mistake, you can click on delete and you can edit and make changes as you see fit. So I'm just going to go back. So we would have created the tender, we created the lot, we updated the submission timeline, we selected the names of the bidders. The next step now is that the public body would have gone through an evaluation process and would have determined the successful bidder. And they would now need to award or identify the name of the awardee. So again, to do that, we have to go into each lot. So we go into the janitorial service lot. We click on view. And you'll notice to the top here, we have an award button. So if I click on award, here, we can then name the supplier who successfully won this bid. So if I click on awarded to, this list of values pulls up the 3 bidders I would have created. So I'm going to select Ace General. We specify the value of the award. So the value of this award is 120,000 T. The date on this award was 9th of March 2021. So again, I select from my calendar 2021, 9th of March. And here you must specify the contract period and the actual number. So for instance, the contract period, the unit of measure, can be months, weeks, or years. So we're going to select years. And since this is 1 year, the contract period is 1. So we click on save. So our award has now been created. So here you see in this green section, awarded to Ace General. The date of award was 9th of March 2021. The value of award, and it was contracted for a 1-year period. All right, so if I click on the back button now, notice on my tender lots section, the status for the lot would have changed to awarded. It also showed me the number of submissions here, which are 3 submissions. All right, so the next step, having awarded the tender to Ace, we now need to create the contract to be associated with this. So right in this screen, we have that button, and it's denoted here as Add Contracts. So we click on Add Contracts. Just go back out, just 1 second. I'm just going to log out and log back in just for this particular supplier. All right, so I go back to my tenders, and here I see this is my janitorial service. Click on it, click on view. Right, so here I'm able to add my contracts option. So I'm presented again with the name of the suppliers. So since the contract was awarded to Ace General, I'm going to click the Add Contract next to Ace General. And here we must specify the details of the contract. So on the reference number, you will specify your internal referencing code for contracts. So contract 08 20-21. The contract status, and there are many different status here. It can be awarded, it can be enforced, suspended within 3 days or 7 days of challenge, terminated either before or after the contract is awarded. So I'm going to select enforce, and here the start date, In this case, since it's the initial contract, the start date will be 9th of March 2021. And here we will specify the ending date of the contract, which will be 8th of March 2022. You can specify the actual completion date when you are at the end of the contract, and if that once that varies from the end date, or regardless, you should still specify the actual completion date. The contract value, in this case, will be $120,000. You specify the contract type, and here we have a list of values you can select from, and we're going to select fixed price. Under project description, you will need to specify some details as to what the contract entails. So here it's the provision of janitorial services, the project scope. So here we provide janitorial service as well as cleaning supplies. You can specify the project deliverables, any project lessons learned, and this can be done along the contract life cycle, okay? Contract life. So now we must also select the lot that this contract is associated with. Now do note that this contract is tied in to the tender as well as to the specific lot. So it's linked throughout. So having clicked on the Save button, the system creates a summarized view for me here in terms of your information. So here I'm seeing the contract reference number, the status, contract value, the start and end date of the contract, a project description, deliverables, etc. If you have detected any type of errors and you need to correct that, you can click on the Edit button, Standard, Edit, and you go back into the screen and you can make a change. So for instance, I'm going to make a change from CR8 to CR07. I click on Save, and the information saves. All right, so here it's reflected. Now, we did also mention that the contract would have been extended for, in this example, would have been extended for for 2 additional years. So we can do that by clicking on the extensions button here. So we click on extensions. And right now, we see on the screen there are no contract extensions to be found. So we're going to create our first extension. So we click on the green button, extension. And here on the extension date, we're going to put the ending date of the extension. So since it's been extended for 2 years into the future, it's 8th of March 2024. So we select 2024, and we have the 8th of March. Here we specify the contract extension value, which is $240,000. The reason for extension, so the contractor, supplier, performed well during initial period and will continue for another 2 years. And then click on Save. So there we have a new extension date being the 8th of March 2024. So if I click back, do note you can have multiple extensions. So you can have as many extensions to match the actual contract. Now, during the life of the contract, a dispute may arise, and you can capture that using the disputes button here. So if you click on disputes, here again, we see in this example, we have not created any new disputes as yet. So to do that, you could click on create. And here you will specify the type of this dispute. So you select from a list of values. You then specify the date on which the dispute would have arisen. And if there are any type of case references and descriptions that you wish to include, you can do that here. and you can provide further details using the additional notes field. When the dispute has been resolved, you can specify the resolved date here. All of this information serves in providing summary information in terms of the contract. Now, under update status, again, likewise, the contract can go through different phases. It can be challenged, and if it's challenged, it can then be suspended or it can be terminated. And so therefore, these are the different statuses you can select, and the start date of those status and the reasons for the status change. Okay, so that will take me to contracts. Now, just a point to note again, we would have started creating intenders, and once we would have created the contract, automatically the contract record would have been created and saved in this screen here under contracts. Now, if you delete your contract, you have the capability to do that. You can edit the information as well. Now, in terms of deletion, if you delete the tender, click on View, and you click on Delete, the delete button here cascades, meaning that all of the items that are related for this particular record, the tender, the bids, the lot information, the award information, as well as the contract information, all of that is deleted together. So be very careful in terms of when you are deleting that you don't delete an item in error. Right, so the next item we want to look at is the contract reporting capability in the system and the responsibility there. So I'm just going to switch across to an Excel sheet here just to demonstrate the reporting requirements. So I'm just going to expand the screen. Hopefully you can see it clearly. So the expectation is that the named procurement officer will need to provide quarterly updates on all of the contracts which are active in the system. So in this Excel worksheet here, I've presented information in a format which should make it easier for you to view. So here we have 5 contracts. So let's say, for instance, we do have, for this particular public body, there are 5 active contracts. And this is the fiscal year 2019-2020. And this is for the reporting period for Q4. The pieces of information that you would need to provide would be the value of work completed for the period, the value of work paid for the period, if you have any adjustments to the value of work completed for the period, or any adjustment of value of work paid. Any adjustments, you will need to specify the reason, and then you also have any variation amount that you would need to capture here. And likewise, you would also need to specify the reason for the variation. So every quarter, the system will go through your records and terms and identify all the contracts which are active and put it there for you to enter. And then you will enter the information, you being the named procurement officer. You will then submit this request for the accounting officer to review the information to ensure that it is correct. If the information is not correct, he can then revert to the NPO to make the corrections, and then the process continues until the accounting officer is satisfied that information is correct and he approves. Now, this 2-level structure is built in to ensure that there is accuracy in terms of the information that's being submitted to the office, as these figures will be collated and submitted to the relevant parties, as Devraj would have indicated in the presentation earlier. So in this particular example, we have Q1, but I'm just going to expand the screen. So I'm going to select all of the quarters, all of the financial periods. So here, every quarter, the information will be presented to you, and cumulatively, this is what will be stored. Now, I'm going to switch to another sheet here and taking one particular example. For instance, this contract number 3, CR003. And here the reporting period, it shows the fiscal year and the quarter and the information from value of work paid, etc. And here we're seeing the different quarters, quarter 4 for this fiscal year, and then we have quarters 1 to quarter 4 for the fiscal period 2020-21, and then quarter 1 in this fiscal period 2021-2022. Now we also have totals that the system will be capturing as you submit your information. And those totals are grouped into 2 areas. You have your inception to date total, and you have your year to date financial year total, right? So your inception to date provides you with all of your totals from the start of your recordings. So in this case, this example, the year to date total, the inception to date total for the value of work completed, it's $3,060,000. So if I were to sum that up, you see it's $3,060,000. Now let's look at the year-to-date total. So what it does is by fiscal year, it provides you the total. So in fiscal year 2019-2020, we only had one item here, and that was $10,000. In this second fiscal year, which is 2020-2021, which are these 4 quarters here, you see that totals up to $2,050,000. And then in this next fiscal year here, we have only 1 quarter reported, and that's 1 million. If you sum the 3 fiscal years, you will get back your same $3,060,000 here. So this information that I presented here will be reflected in the depository, which I'm going to show you now. So I'm just going to log out from this particular public body just to demonstrate in terms of different phases, as this particular example here shows all of the status as being approved. All right, so log out, click on my icon there, click log out, and I'm logging in here as a different user. All right, so under contract reporting, here we are seeing on our screen, this is the screen that the named procurement officer will need to go in, as well as the accounting officer, to be able to access this functionality. So here, what's presented to us is the calendar period. So it shows us the quarter and so instance, quarter 4 and the ending date of that quarter, 30th of September 2020. Here we are also seeing the various status. So it can be approved, reverted, ready. And then we also have, we can click on view contracts or submit. So let's look at our first approved quarter, and we click on view contracts. And here we have only 1 contract registered for this public body for that period. And when I click on the view, here I see that value of work completed, value of work paid, entered, but nothing else was entered for any of the other fields, and that's fine. So if I click on cancel, and I click on the plus sign now, here I'm presented with the information, the totals in terms of inception to date and year to date summary. And here we have the value of work completed, value of work paid, likewise adjusted value of work completed, adjusted value of work paid, any variation that was made. So if I look now at this quarter here, quarter 4, notice I can click on the submit button now or view contracts. Now the reason I'm seeing the submit button here is because the period is open. Now in the back end, and this users wouldn't be able to see this, but the OPR will control the quarterly periods in terms of the open and close status. And only in an open status would you be able to submit your information. And So let's take a look now at the view contracts for this particular quarter, so quarter 4. Here under, I will select in this case the edit option. So here I click on edit, and here I can enter the information. Notice as well, you always see the original contract value and the summary relating to that contract information to the top. Okay, so the value of work completed for this quarter would be 5,000. The value of work paid would have been 10,000. Now, in the previous month, we didn't specify any particular, or we omitted to provide some information. So I'm going to include a cost here. So I'm going to put in $10,000 in terms of value of work completed. So I'm going to put in the reason for my adjustment did not include value of work completed in previous period. So now we click on save. All right, so if I look through the other contracts, again, we see the same information. So just imagine the 5 contracts I would have demonstrated earlier in the Excel worksheet, you would have been seeing those same 5 contracts here. Once the named procurement officer is satisfied the information is correct, he will click on submit, and the status now changes to pending approval. So now if I change my hat as a user from my named procurement officer to now I am the accounting officer, and the accounting officer would have received an email notification that there is an item or there is a quarter there awaiting him to review. He comes in now and then looks at view contract. He looks at the information. He views the information. He will click on all. He will notice that there is something missing here for this particular contract. So he'll just take a little note of it. So, and then also this contract is also missing information. So what he's going to do is that he's going to review it. And his reason is that missing information in contracts. Click on it. And so he comes back. Let's go back into it and see. And so we see the status as being reverted. Okay, so had the accounting officer clicked on approve, so I'm just going to click on submit. Had he clicked on approved, the status will now change from pending approval to approved. Okay. And that will take us to the end of the contract section. So we would have covered the contract creation as well as the quarterly contract updates. So now I will pass you. Okay, so now we will actually take a 10-minute break. So we'll put the timer on our screens. Okay, so welcome back. I hope you had a good 10-minute break. All right, so right now we are going to go through the disposals functionality in the depository. So let's click on the disposals link here. Again, it's under the procurements heading. And under this, we are able to see a listing of all of the disposals which we would have entered previously into the system. So I'm going to actually create a new disposal record. I'm just going to stop my sharing and start back. All right. So under the disposal, you create our property type. In terms of the property can be either personal or real. So here I'm going to select, in this example, it's a personal property. And then there is the category of personal. So personal can be either current asset or inventory, fixed asset, intangibles, or if it's real, it can be categorized as building, land, or land and building. So in this particular example, I'm going to use fixed asset, and we are going to dispose of office furniture, a piece of office furniture, a desk. Okay. So disposal category information. This is free text, so you can enter the information that you think best identifies your category. So office furniture. And so the description, you can specify some more details of what this item looks like. So it will be 1. So it's good to put in the quantity. So 1 L-shaped desk with 3 drawers. We must then specify the reason for disposal. And we have a few reasons. It can be either damaged, lost, obsolete, stolen, surplus, or unserviceable. So we're going to select, in this case, it may be damaged. And so we're going to select damaged. We will then specify the disposal date. So since it's something from the past, we are recording the disposal of. We're going to select a date in February. So it's the 14th of February, 2022. Here we have the disposal value. So it may be $5,000 as a disposal value for this desk. And now we must select the means of disposal, and that can vary from being concession, lease, other alienation, sale, or transfer without value. So I'm going to select the sale option as it was sold, and the disposal would have been approved by a particular person, so we must specify that person. So person Ali would have approved this disposal. Now there would be an approved evaluation report, which the public body would have recorded and signed, and that report would need to have been uploaded. So the upload of those documents will be in the same document section, which Devraj would have indicated earlier, where you upload your file, you then assign it to the disposal type, and then once it's uploaded and assigned there, you can now select it from this drop-down list. So here, I would have uploaded it previously, and here you will see B03 as disposal valuation report. So I'm going to select it here. And here you will now specify the consideration amount. So the consideration amount could be, well, would be in this case, $7,500. Just to explain, so the disposal value, you can think of that as your book value. So, and the consideration amount, that's in this case would be the sale amount of being $7,500. So here we click on save. And what it does, it creates for me a summarized view now of the disposal record. So here it shows me the type of property is it. So it's personal property. And this is the description, 1 L-shaped desk with 3 drawers. Here you have the disposal category. Here you have the description of, and then you have the disposal value, the consideration amount, the disposal date, the disposal reason, and here you have a valuation report, which you can also download to review. Now, if you would have identified any particular errors and you need to make any changes, you can click on the edit button here, and you can go in and you can make those changes. All right. Once you made the changes, you can click on save or you can click on cancel. So I'm just going to go back into the report, into the record, sorry. And notice there are 2 sections appearing. One section relates to addresses, and the other section relates to beneficiaries. So you must specify the name, the address of the record. So So I'm going to click on addresses and click on create. And here we have a drop-down list in terms of the address type. And this address type uses the same address type which is used throughout the depository. So you can select either mailing, primary, or secondary. In this case, it will be primary. And you would specify the address of the asset where it's located. So it's number 22, Picton Street. And again, similarly, you must specify the municipality in terms of where this is located. For the Spain City Corporation, you can specify the postal code, and if there are no codes, we specify 5 zeros and telephone contact. Click on save. So notice now we have the address of the asset. Next, we will then specify the beneficiary of the asset. So here we click on the create button, and we will now specify the beneficiary's name. Julie Charles. And the beneficiary will have categories to which they will belong, and you must select one of these categories. So it can be an identified person, whether it's an employee, committee, or board of that particular public body, a member of the public, an NGO, a private company, a public officer, or a school. So in this case, it will be a member of the public. And if there are any relationships of the beneficiary to the public body, that must be specified here. And so we'll put in this case, no relationship. And then we click on save. So here we have the beneficiary being Julie Charles, being a member of the public. Point to note though, in that there should only be one beneficiary per record, per disposal record. So if you, in this example, we had 2 desks and they were being disposed of to 2 different persons, we would then need to create 2 different or 2 separate records here. So here we have this one record, one L-shaped desk being sold to Julie, and then we would then need to create another record being sold to Tom. Okay. However, if we did have 2 desks being sold to Julie, we would just need to make sure and specify only one record would suffice, and it being two desks. All right, so that's an important note to make. Now, so that takes care of our disposals record. Next item we would like to go through will be the reporting functionality that's available to you. So you'll notice on the left-hand side here, if we click on reports, it will pull up a separate screen, reports. And the interface on this is slightly different. And so we'll navigate through this just to explain some of the key features. So on this screen here, you will be able to see the reports which are available to you based on your access. So let's look at the second report here, and the description of the report is search supplier by line of business. And in this report provides you with a listing of all suppliers who have created their various lines of business in the system. And it shows you in the various levels in the UNSPSC. So for instance, if I select now in my criteria, you also have an option where you can select filtering by different criteria. So here my filter section is located here where you see filters, and you can filter by supplier name, level 1 segment, level 2 by family, level 3 by the class, or by level 4 the commodity title. Okay, so in this case, if I want to select by the supplier's name, I will select on the supplier name and click on the drop-down list. And here I can select the various suppliers I would like to see what they would have specified. So in this case, let's look at Amaranth Business Solutions. And once you select the criteria, you can then click on the Apply filter. So for Amaranth, we see here the supplier's name appearing. We see the value category. So note though that the supplier can specify different value categories for which they can provide the goods, works, or service for. So in this case, Amaranth Business Solution has registered themselves for level 2 category for printers or copy paper, whereas they have identified as level 4 for things such as drywall and wall boards, etc. Okay. Now, if I want to cancel this filter, I can do that by clicking on Clear Filter, and then click on Apply Filter. And what it does, it clears out whatever filter you have there and reapply and runs over the reports. Just take a note here, you will see these preview records here, which shows you from a drop-down list, you can display or you can retrieve records in these segments. So either 10 records at a time, 10 records, 100 records, 1,000, 10,000 records, or all the records. Okay. You can even export the information to Excel, PDF, and these other types, but the most common export that will make sense will be in Excel or PDF. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to pull that report for, let's say, that same person we were using, Amaranth Business Solutions, and I click on Apply Filter. I then want to click on Export to Excel because I may probably want to further analyze and manipulate the data. So what it does, it exports it, and you would see once it's completed, you just click on Open File. And here you have your listing for Amaranth Business Solutions. And here you will notice the various categories, level 2, level 3 information. And again, you can use the Excel functionality such as the filtering and pivot tables, etc., to further analyze your data. All right, just switching back to the screen. Now, if it is, I'm going to cancel or clear my filter again and apply. And just to show you one additional search capability, under commodity, for instance, I can click on this and I could type in a word. So for instance, if I just want to look for paper, so all suppliers that sells paper, I click on Apply Filter. So suppliers that sells paper or matches the paper at level 4. That's important to note. Here we see we have different types of suppliers here, but I'm only seeing 10 suppliers, sorry, 10 records. I'm going to select all 10,000, click Apply, and so I get a bigger listing. Notice below here you have that navigation feature where you can scroll through different pages, either the first page or the first and very last page, etc. All right, so this is the summary of this particular report. So I'm just going to go backwards. I'm going to click on Close. So that's one report. The second report that's available to you will be the list of supplier names and email addresses. So here we have a listing of all the suppliers, which you can go through, and you can again download to an Excel sheet. So you can actually see their phone numbers and their email if you wish to contact them. You can also use sorting features. At the top of each field, you will notice that there is an arrow which you can select either to sort up, which is sorting ascending, or sort down, which is descending. Okay. So here I can click on sort up, and so it sorts for me in alphabetical order. Okay. So that takes us to an end of this particular reporting. So those are the two reports which are available. As we develop more reports, we will make them available to you and we will share them with you. Do note, though, this particular report with the searching supplier by line of business, this doesn't show suppliers which are pre-qualified. These are just the suppliers who've actually just registered for that line of business. As they have not gone into the pre-qualification phase and been pre-qualified, that report isn't there as yet. So that will take me to the end of the summary, sorry, the end of the reporting. And now just to summarize what we would have done for the day so far in terms of the functionality in the depository and the Act and regulations. So Devraj would have covered the key aspects of the Act and the regulations, the UNSPSC codes, and he would have demonstrated how these are being used in the pre-qualification. We have the public body details in terms of the accounting officers and name procurement officer information, which needs to be uploaded into the system and can be approved, and the letter templates that you can use. And do know that those templates, that template is available on our website. The pre-qualification process, suppliers ineligibility. So I would have also demonstrated in terms of the process for tender management, all the way through to contract management and the quarterly updates, which must be performed. We have the disposal records, the reporting functionality. So in terms of system enhancements, the depository is reviewed periodically for determining areas in the functions where we can enhance the experience. And so when that is done, we will provide release notes to all users and email them. In terms of user support, the OPR is here to support you in different ways. We have provided you here with some key links which are important. So one is the link to our depository, as we have it here. A very major resource for us is our OPR's website. And on our website, we do have the Act, the regulations and handbooks and guidelines under the resources section, and under the portals section, which Devraj would have shown you earlier, there is again the link to the depository. We do have training documents available there, and we update those regularly. We also have the templates. So for instance, that letter template that was displayed earlier, and our policies. And here we have the UNSPSC website, which is also available under the useful link section in our portals section. The office can be contacted via email at support@opr.org.tt, or you can call us at 226-4OPR or 627-4OPR. In terms of the next steps and what is required, so all accounting officers and name procurement officers will need to obtain their login credentials for the system. If you have not received those credentials, please reach out to the office to obtain those credentials. The next step will then be for the NPO to log into the system and to set up the various lines of business. And then currently the access is limited to just lines of business, and we will be opening the functionality for pre-qualification and the other areas as well as the proclamation of the Act comes closer to fruition. And so as we're moving on further now, we come on to our question and answer segment.
Thank you. On behalf of the team here at the OPR, we thank you again for your time and engaging feedback. We do hope the information shared will be put to good use as we move forward towards full proclamation. And of course, as we close off, we welcome your feedback via a short survey. The link has been provided for you in the chat. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can also submit any questions that you have to us at our feedback email. That is feedback@opr.org.tt. We will also put that email address in the chat as well. Once again, thank you very much for your participation. Do enjoy the rest of your day.